how do we get occupants to really accept a range from 10 to 35 degrees Celsius? Because if I was renting a commercial office building, there is no way my tenants would not jump up and down as soon as we get outside a 21.5 to 22.5 band. They'd scream and shout and say, building manager, I need you to adjust my set point, it's not comfortable in here. And especially when they're demanding immediate responses from an empty meeting room to 5 minutes after they put 25 people in a room designed for 6 people, and they want it to always be exactly 21 degrees in all those conditions. How can we, through all areas, we need to work with this natural ventilation idea, but also get the occupants to accept a wider band
Remove
range?
the thermostat?
Yes.
Because it is, I'm being devil's advocate to a certain level. The idea that any element of discomfort you can blame on a system that is someone else's issue, which is manifest in a thermostat, which you twiddle and you have no idea whether it's working or not. The stories are legend of thermostats being attached to walls and not wired up.
That gives even less control to the occupants.
The idea that we actually design buildings to give them that control, and that is a prerequisite before you can then allow the temperatures to fluctuate.
You brought up
That's
adaptive comfort.
Yes, okay. The thing about comfort is that what people don't like is a rapid change in temperature. You know, and if you spent many years in central Iran and my doctorate in the wind catchers of Yaz, and you're quite comfortable between 35, 36, 37, because it's on a known trajectory through your daily routine and so on, and it's at a certain time and you balance it up. Yeah. So you're not going from 10 to 35. It's just that people living in some houses in Dammam will be quite comfortable between 32 and 35 over in that period of the year, or somebody. So what you really need, this well-behaved base note is critical. But there are whole new paradigms of comfort now. And for instance, personal comfort, what the Californians call personal environmental technologies. So if you get the very, very large lady in one corner and the very, very thin man in another, they're going to expect extremely different comfort temperatures, physiologically, maybe psychologically too. They've come from different homes. So what they're looking at now is you just basically run your heating or cooling systems lower in winter and higher in summer. And then if you've got somebody who's particularly cold person or a hot person, you just give them a personal environmental technology and you put a fan on somebody's desk. And that's in California, Berkeley, they've got 3 and 4 watt fans that are really effective, or little heaters or something for the individuals. So that's a way of just, and people adapt to those temperatures they normally occupy, and if they're not comfortable, they change their environment. They'll wear more, or they'll use a heater or something. So this is a really big thing, but you'll notice already in a lot of the inner city, big glass towers, that already people are importing local cooling systems as well, or local heating systems, because the whole big system's not working. So starting from this idea that if you've got a person who's got a problem, you don't shift the whole thermostat, you just solve their particular problem and where it is.
There's a research program at UC Berkeley at the moment where they're actually developing the heating and cooling chairs to fit with this concept. And not only that, the little thing to put your feet in and something to put your hands in, because they've worked out that the extremities are what you've got to deal with when they've been doing the research. So definitely the way things are going.
I would offer also other practical examples. Portcullis House, high profile, you'd expect it, it must be comfortable, has no air conditioning in it. It has a fairly sealed facade and there's mechanical ventilation. We use groundwater cooling, not a chiller and so on. The building's been very interesting for the lack of complaints. And you would expect MPs to be pretty good at complaining. And what we did was we provided no thermostat because there is no AC to control. There's a ventilation rate, they can adjust that. There's a dial in the room which is operating the air supply. There's a thermostatic radiator valve. They can twiddle that and they can feel the temperature. They can adjust their blinds, they can adjust their lighting and so forth and so on. What I found fascinating going into the building afterwards was the way that a whole sequence of offices were all operating at different conditions.
Yeah.
Different people happy with different conditions. But because they were responsible for where they set it, there's an element of, you know, it has to be said. And I recognise exactly what Sue's talked about with regard to the bass note. Slow response of the background. And the problem we have of modern buildings, they're very highly strung, very rapid response, and therefore expecting people to be able to respond to the sun's come on that face of the building and they've been in a meeting in another room for 2 hours and then come back in. It's delegating to the individual that doesn't work. You have to design the building so that it stays stable with relatively modest changes across the day, and they then do their own trim control.